Yes, sir. There we go. The YouTube's running. Okay. So, you want me to give you the rundown real quick? Basically, it's just introduction.
Yeah.
We do our thing. Who says hello, world? Then we basically just get free flowing in the convo. I always just talk about the phone call I had with you and what you posted on the 386 Hoop Scenes.
Yeah.
And that's how we talk on the phone, is how we talk on
Yeah.
Simple as that, convo.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't know how we'd go. Like, if you ask me questions, just whatever you want.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Cool.
But we got to talk about the news show also.
Oh, we will.
At some point.
The new what?
The news show.
Oh, the new show?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They used to have DK.
I think I left my phone in the car. Go ahead.
Oh, my God.
It's recording.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we're all good?
Yeah, you ready?
We're going?
All right. I'll start it off then. Hello, world. And the cousins are locked in. Got Dave in the studio, myself, Max, but now we have a special guest.
Special.
I requested him to come in the studio through 386 Hoop Scenes. We have Roman. How's it going?
Oh, not too bad. I appreciate you bringing me. This is weird talking like this.
You get used to it. After like an hour or 53 of these podcasts now, you get used
Yeah.
to it. It's just part of it.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you reached out to my friend Tom at Hoop Scene, and whatever questions you want, I'll gladly answer.
Yeah, because what made me contact you, or contact 386 Hoop Scenes, was you initially posted something that I thought nobody would do. It's something Robert and I talked about when Robert first transferred to Atlantic, and immediately
Shout out to Big Rob.
shout out to Big Rob and Bethune doing his thing. And I called him and I was like, "You will not believe it. Did you see this video?" And he said, "I already know what you're talking about." So we started talking about it, and I was like, "It is about time somebody spoke up about how everybody's feeling." And shout out to 386 Hoop Scenes, by the way, for allowing you to do that and just getting it out to the world. And I called you, like I said, and I think you did the best thing anyone could do. So to the people that haven't seen those posts, you can check it out at 386 Hoop Scenes, or is it up on yours as well? Your Instagram?
It is, but don't go look at mine. It's just corny stuff of
A lot of Ric Flair pictures.
Ric Flair pictures. I'm a big. I appreciate that. Ric Flair fan, and then dumb pictures of Tom and myself.
Okay,
and
well,
awkward scenes.
Just real quick, yeah, the wife and I met Ric Flair around 4 to 5 months ago before he went downhill with the sickness. Just throwing that out there.
See, now in 1994,
There
I
we go.
believe, I met Ric Flair, and no lie, it was at, the place was Kokomo's. It used to be right across from Ocean Center.
Okay.
There was a bar at the bottom,
Okay.
and illegally drinking, of course. So
Sure.
we were pretty buzzed
Sure.
up. Went to the Battle of the Beach wrestling, and who comes walking in is Ric Flair. Now that was my idol growing up, so my friends want me to go over there and do the Ric Flair to Ric Flair.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's get a little more drunk, so of course, here it comes. I'm like, it's gonna happen. So I walked in his direction and did the whole strut right to Ric
I
Flair.
love this truck.
Gave him the woo, and he told me, sit your ass down.
his
So I
phone's
sat,
bangers.
so I sat down at the table with Ric Flair and drank 2 pitchers of beer. He had 2 blondes, which probably weren't his wife's.
It's a kids-friendly show. No, I'm playing.
That's my Ric Flair story. So 2 free pitchers of beer with the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
This is off script, by the way.
Yeah,
We're
of course,
doing
of course. 98% of the show is off script. Yeah, my Ric Flair story is I paid $120 to get a picture and an autograph. That's it.
Okay, so he has a better story.
Yeah,
You're
he
starting the
won.
night off right. So this whole
Yeah.
thing.
So back to
people
why
that don't
I'm
know.
here without Ric Flair is. I'll tell you how it all started.
Yeah, tell us about the post.
So-
People that didn't see it.
You know, I've coached a lot of kids in the town and Flagler, and then so I was in the store, and the lady come up to me. Now I've seen her, but I don't know her, and she wanted to ask me why I left a certain school.
Okay.
Well, my son. So I told her, and then she tells me, you know, what happened to her son, which was he was told certain things, come to this, come to that. and guaranteed you're on the team,
Heard this story before.
right? So
Mhm.
here's an adult
Sure.
telling a kid, you come, show up at 5:30 or whatever the hell time, but be here, you're guaranteed on the team. Tryouts come, guess who's cut? The
That
kid
kid.
that was there. So I thought about it all day at work, and then I thought, I know a couple stories because kids just tell me stuff that's happened to them. And on the ride home, and I don't think anybody should videotape while driving like I did, but
I do the same. I do
Yeah,
the
Max
same.
does it
hey,
at
I
least
can
3 times a day.
multitask. I'm
Usually
pretty
he's
good.
listening to Drake, but
Kodak now.
There you go.
Kodak, but
So I said, you know what? The hell with it. I'm going to make me some videos. So I made 3 of them, but then before I posted them, I remember I came home. My son Max is here. I was worried about
great name.
yeah, it is. You had it first, so I guess
Number
yeah,
one.
the producer Sean, his son is Max. There's actually a
Oh,
lot
damn.
of Max action in the room.
Yeah.
He's only 5, so he,
Number 3. Okay. Anyway, keep going.
And I told him, I said, somebody has to say something. But I was really worried about like the flack he would get. Maybe because adults act irrational. So I asked him, and he said, well, I'm not too worried about that. Post it. So I posted it and sent it to Tom. And it went from there. I mean, there's more that I have. Like the stories that I told, I do believe that they're true. 2 of them that I told on Instagram, I know for a fact are true.
I knew it. I knew the one that you told, and we spoke on the phone.
Yeah.
And the one thing I could say is, I don't think this problem is new either.
No,
Yeah, you
I
mentioned
don't think so either. I can only imagine how long it's been going, but what can be done?
That's my question for you. Is obviously there's an issue in the high school system, whether it's politics, it's favoritism, something's not right. But what can we do, not only as just like people that are bystanders, fans of the game of basketball, but for kids, for parents of those players, those student athletes? What can we do? Like for the people listening, if they agree with us and they say, okay, let's make a change, what do we do?
Man, I don't know.
Starts on locked in.
Yeah, because I've spoken to coaches, after the video, and presented like hypothetically, you tell a kid one thing, so he makes the team, but then he doesn't play. So if the kid comes to you and starts bitching about it,
Mhm.
what are the chances he's going to make the team next year? Probably slim to none. So really, he doesn't have much to say. So then he goes home and tells mom and dad. So dad or mom goes in, they start complaining to the coach.
Sure.
What are the chances the kid's going to make the team? Slim to none. So they don't have a voice. And I don't know how to really start, I guess, here at Locked In. But something needs to happen. Somebody needs to look into what's going on. Or it'll take some of the brave kids that have sent me messages, thanking me for posting it. Just have to stand up and...
There's a couple, do you have a take? Because I have a couple right off the
No,
bat.
keep
Yeah,
going,
I'd like
keep
to
going.
hear 'em.
Okay, I have a couple just right off the bat. The first thing is you mentioned here at Locked In. That's why I want to make sure everybody understands, whether it's through Instagram, YouTube, our podcast is. I want to make sure people know Locked In is a place that they can come and speak to Dave and I freely. Whether it's, hey, I feel like I need to be marketed. I don't know why I'm not being recognized the way I should because I'm an elite player. They can come on. If it's a coach, it's a player, anybody's welcome to come and Locked In. And what I think we do best at is just speaking freely. There's no rules. You don't have to not say anything, just say how you feel. So that's the first thing. I'm so happy you came and accepted our invitation. Secondly is when you say kids need to speak up and have a voice, I know I can speak for Robert because he doesn't mind. He was the first person I realized who'd made the transfer and was like open about it to the coaches, because I spoke to him and his mom, and I knew why he did it, and he did it for the Hems Academy, but he also did it because he didn't feel like he was done right athletically. So when he made the announcement, it was in Coach Joe's office, and he was like, Coach Joe was, hey, is anyone transferring? Anything's going on? And everyone's like, oh my God. Everyone's in that small office at Creek. And Robert's like, yeah, I'm going to Atlantic. And I was like, holy crap. And
That was a great Robert impression, by the way.
The whole room went silent.
Yeah, I'm sure he's happy.
But
about
he
that.
took it and he got transferred out the next day. My point being is I think kids should stand up for what is best for them and not what is best for the school.
No,
and the
I
coach.
agree.
So like
I
when
agree
you
with
have players transfer, I think everyone's goal and every coach should be is to get players to perform at the highest level and to get them a good education. So if you're not going to play them or if you plan on not having them in your system, why recruit them at all? That's what I don't get with these coaches.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Some don't do it, some do, but
And I would look at, like, from a player standpoint. Let's say you're in 10th grade. The kid ahead of you is in 11th grade. He might be equal or maybe a little bit better. Do you want to sit around and wait till your 12th grade year before you get your shot? You know, maybe go talk to your parents. But I think that has a lot to do with it. I can speak for my friend Tom. His son went to New Smyrna, and now he's at Spruce Creek. This year we started at Calvary, and then we're back at Spruce Creek. You know, so a lot of it does have to do with the parents too. If they're not willing to, he lives in Port Orange and drove to New Smyrna. You know, drove his son to school. I live in Port Orange. My wife was driving my son to school. In Ormond. So if you do have the needs, or not the needs, but if your parents are willing to do it, I would leave and go to a place where you legitimately feel that you have a shot of playing. If you like playing basketball, you know, there are kids. I put on the one post. There's a kid at a certain school, you know, told, yeah, you're going to play, and then in the fall league, in the summer league, you're playing 8 minutes a game. Like, if you consider that playing, I guess we're on two different worlds,
Yeah,
basketball worlds.
they probably won't be listening to this if that's what, yeah.
They're probably listening and watching, and they probably, I don't know what their minutes are now, but it's too late. So it don't really matter what your minutes are.
A quick idea or question or kind of statement out there. Is it hard? I actually love the transfer. We talk about LeBron James a lot in this
He started
podcast. He wanted to go win. He went to Miami. I give all the credit in the world to people who want to move, people who want to play, people, get out of the situation you're in if you're not happy.
Mobility.
Totally, yeah, mobility, 1,000% in agreement. But what happened if a kid, just say, goes from Calvary to Spruce Creek, and then maybe is not getting the minutes, or they're saying the coach says, hey, hey, come here, we'll definitely start you, blah, 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 and they don't get the minutes. Do you want it to transfer again? Do you think 2 or 3 transfers in one grade year, like that 10th grade year, is
Well,
good for the
they
kid?
have a cutoff.
Okay.
I believe it's when the first practice starts. So when it's open for teams to practice,
Uh-huh.
if you show up to the practice, correct, Tom?
Yes.
You can't transfer schools and play
That
sports
same
that year. So it has to be done before. And I think the coaches know this, so they do play that, unfairly. So
Kind of get them stuck.
yeah, you play a fall league and then or a summer league and then a fall league. So these kids go and they let them play because the games don't mean nothing.
Sure.
And then as soon as that first day of practice comes, where they can't go nowhere, shit changes.
Okay, so we're talking about players transferring, we're talking about mobility, like player movement. How about on the coach's behalf? As you just said, some take advantage of the system. You're not allowed to recruit, right, as a coach. You can,
No.
you can't say, hey, come to my school to play basketball.
No.
If you coach them before, a player can
But-
say, hey, I feel comfortable playing under this person, they can go, which is perfectly okay. But my point is, have certain people taken advantage of the system from a
Oh, yeah.
coaching perspective?
I believe so, and just so everybody knows, that never happened in our situation. I think a lot of people, and Ray Gaines is a good friend of mine. He didn't recruit anything with us. I went to him starting in 9th grade, talking about Max going over there. It didn't work out in the 9th grade. Max's favor. He got a lot of minutes on varsity, as a 9th grader. And why we went the next next year was, and it doesn't matter, he don't care. You know, grades. I wanted the smaller classroom, get his GPA up higher. And I also want to know, people know, like, with Calvary, it was nothing like, he wasn't mad at anybody. Well, he just, you go from 3,500 kids to like 400. And that was the main thing. It was so small, he couldn't, it was hard to adjust. And I know he was only there for 4 weeks or 5 weeks. And we talked about it, but we went back. And Coach Ray and I are still friends. He still, I believe, talks with Max, you know, so that's how it went. But a lot of people do recruit. And if they say they don't, here's one thing. I don't believe high school coaches should coach middle school basketball.
I know you're going with this because it influences those middle school players.
Yeah, so
to go
in
to
a
their
way,
high school.
he doesn't have to say anything. You know, the coach doesn't have to say anything to really recruit. So you have, we'll even, like, man, I almost said the name, but now
Just got breaking news.
yeah, like now there's a middle school coach. I don't know if he's still going to be the coach of the middle school, but he's way out of the middle school's district, or you know, his high school's in a different town. Now I know you can go to any high school you want to. You know, you don't have to have all those paperwork. You can just go.
Yeah.
But isn't that a form of recruiting?
I completely agree. Now, the only thing I could say, like devil's advocate, is we talk about the main concern should be developing players so they're ready for the next level. If a
Well, where does that happen?
That was my next point, is I would say it's a good thing if you have a coach that knows the player so well that they develop them in middle school and they teach them the fundamentals. So by the time they get to high school, they can advance their skills even more, so it's easier to get into college. But
What
you
town-
just said,
Yeah,
where
what,
is that
what
happening?
town's that happening in?
So that's the thing. I can't play devil's advocate if we don't have that many. I can name a couple players that I know that are like out and about, but not as much locally. You mentioned in your videos Daytona State,
Yeah,
Bethune-Cookman,
Yeah.
and there was one more, Stetson. I don't know. If
yeah,
you mentioned
Stetson. You also have, you know, Flagler College. So, like I said in the video, there's not one player. Embry-Riddle. So
I
we're
think
gonna,
Nick Hurd goes to Embry-Riddle now, but besides Nick Hurd,
yeah, and besides Dalton Barnes, who played at Embry-Riddle. But before that, like, where are our players that come from? And I'll say the schools: Spruce Creek, Atlantic, Mainland. Like, where are all of these players that you have huge write-ups, you know, for years, and you follow them? I follow basketball, and I like the players, you know, and the kids, and I get to know some of the kids. Some of them I don't know, but where are they now? Like, local, how are we have no players on local teams, local colleges?
I think that
How
I
does
don't
that
have an
happen?
answer. I don't have an answer for that. That's why.
Yeah, it seems like 10, 12, 15 years ago there was legitimate players playing high school ball, legitimate NBA players who went NBA. There's legitimate college players who played all over the nation. It's a dried up vacuum.
No, so I think that goes back to the point that coaches are more worried about winning that big district game instead of developing their players. Right?
That's a fact.
I mean, I think that's
I would
what it
agree
is.
with that, 100%. Because when that player is gone, he's gone. It's on to the next. You know, you were a player here recently,
Mhm.
okay? So you played. I watched you play. We went and watched you play. I thought you were a decent player. You know, could you have been better? Maybe if you were pushed right.
Mhm.
Maybe, you know, things could have been different. But
That's
What-
my biggest regret is, now this is no disrespect to the school because I think each player can fit differently in each school. I didn't fit well with Creek. I fit better with Atlantic because I bought into the system. My goal, I told you this, my goal my senior year was, yeah, I could have started and I talked to Coach Howard about it, but I saw how good DeAndre was becoming and what he meant to that first group. And I wanted to do what it took to win a state championship. Obviously fell short, but had a very successful season. But if I were to go to Atlantic those first 2 years and had even more years under Coach Howard, I feel like I would have been a different player. So my point being is that even though Atlantic may not be maybe my best fit, Atlantic may not be Max's best fit, Atlantic may not be DeAndre's. So I think players should really go to what is best for them and what helps them go to the next level.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. And then like with teams that we have now, you know, there's really not one good team. Well, this year Father Lopez, I think, has
So
a
Father Lopez is like that?
Yeah, I believe they have. You know, you got Colin, dominating big man, and then they have the new kid AJ Jackson, who's very good, and then the point guard Devin Knob, I believe, from Oviedo. So they got three really good pieces.
And what's his name? Colin committed
to Michigan.
to Michigan.
Yeah. So you know he's the best player in the county. So
Yeah.
they're good, and I'm not shortchanging any of the other schools. I mean, they all have good players. New Smyrna.
That has to be the best.
Yeah, I would say they're the best team because they have the best player. But let's say you're on a team that doesn't have a best player. You can't buy into the team system.
I agree. No, I
Okay,
agree.
so if you're the best player on one of the worst teams, maybe the coach should really look and say, you know what? He's the best I got. Let's try and work around him because maybe he's the only kid on the team that has aspirations to play college basketball. Maybe you got 12 guys on your team and 10 of them don't really care. They're just playing because they like basketball.
Sure.
And they're pretty good players.
A little bit of a hobby.
Yeah, but you got a kid on the team that's, you know, obviously better than they are, maybe even younger. Why don't you start to run stuff, you know, for that guy? And I'll give you an example. We went and played Winter Park. They got a nice 10th grade kid, Van Wilkes. His older brother Wyatt Wilkes now is at Florida State. So we played him. Now the team's really not that good. I mean, they're decent. I'm not shortchanging them either. I feel bad, like
No,
I'm
you're
talking
just being
trash
honest.
about them.
No, just being honest.
But for where they play really good competition. So they probably won't win many games. And I think the coach sees that and looks at, well, my best player just so happens to be 10th grade. We went out and played him. He ran sets. The first 4 plays were for Van Wilkes. You're talking a 10th grade kid is the best player on the team. He's trying to get this kid involved, like immediately.
Sure.
You know, and he'll probably do that his 11th grade year. Maybe a couple kids will come over, but he'll still be the man. 12th grade, who knows where he goes. So I think coaches also have to look at what they have and how can they just help the kid out. Like, stop worrying about your wins and losses. No one gives a shit if you went 29-3, but you're out in the first round. Who cares?
You made a good, interesting point though about this.
Sure. Oh, should I go at that point? Or I have
I mean,
another
if you
question?
have some better material, then do it.
No, I have 2 questions or 2 points. One is to the coach. That coach, maybe that's all that he cares about is a 29-3 record because he goes back to his principal or his uppers and goes, "Hey, I'm 29-3. Hey, I'm 26-5.
Yeah,
My
you're
winning
just-
percentage is 90%. I'm getting
You're
his job."
pleading for a job to
Correct.
keep your job.
Sure.
And I would say the athletic director should say, yeah, man, you've won 90% of your games over the last 4 years, and you've sent 2 kids to college. It just ain't working. Bottom line.
But you had a point. You said to keep your job, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, if your desire is to be a coach, and some of these coaches just like coaching high school, maybe some of them want to advance in their career.
Sure.
I think a principal who may not look and be a fan of basketball the way we are may just look at the wins and losses.
Yeah,
Would I be right?
you
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
not-
There's a
not
lot of
everybody.
owners out there, NFL, NBA. They don't have any outlook or outtakes on the game. All they see is, oh, you know, we went 10-6 this year, and for football, and we went to a playoff game, and there's a good paycheck there. Yeah, we're keeping that coach. But they didn't go, you know, they didn't send one player to the Pro Bowl, or they didn't have a playoff win. Same thing in basketball, like, you know, the Orlando Magic are firing coaches over and over again because they can't, you know,
Can't win.
yeah, they can't win. They can't
They
coach.
just can't win.
And it's sometimes that's all maybe these coaches, you know, if they win 90%, 90% is outlandish. If they win 70% of their games, they're probably in a cushion seat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not asking like just because the guy, has a bad season to be fired.
Sure. Oh yeah.
It's high school basketball we're talking about.
Yeah.
My big thing is like what they're doing with the players. Now I could do more. I could probably train more kids, but like the coaches, I have a family.
You're like the
I'm
bar
about
ball
to
at
say the
Daytona
next
Beach.
LeVar Ball.
No, but I've done that. I've coached.
Sure.
In Flagler, and what do we have, Max? 14 kids on the team. 13 of them play high school basketball. One of them doesn't. So that's a pretty good. And I started when kids could barely dribble. So I've coached a lot of the players, like you said. DeAndre Harvey was on my team. Did I make him who he is? No, because he put in the work.
Yeah.
But when he was playing for one team and they weren't going anywhere, I put my kids, when I coached, in the toughest situations possible. We went all over Florida, finding the best teams that we could play when they were playing, and would play them.
To make your kids better.
That's the goal. The kids are supposed to get better.
This is the problem I have 2 points. I'm trying not to forget them. With the rec, the Port Orange rec. I grew up hooping in the Port Orange rec. I'd be there as soon as school ended. Summer.
I'm 40, and so did I.
Okay. But then all of a sudden there's a rule where if you're 18 and older, you can't go. And my whole argument with them, I almost wanted to sign a petition. Because the way I got better is I played when Dalton came on the weekends, when he could play. I played against Dalton. Yeah, I got beat really bad, and he probably ran my team off the court, but it made me want to keep going and push harder so maybe my team can beat his team. And I feel like there's like this system now, it's like, now I can't go unless it's in the morning so I can play with adults. And now those kids won't ever have the opportunity to play against someone my age who can maybe teach them a thing or two.
Well, and I also, I agree, and that is pretty messed up.
It is messed up.
I really didn't think about it like that, because we'll even go way back, when I played at the rec, we didn't have cell phones. You had to have something to do. So during the summer, let's say, I don't know what kids do, during the summer, but I'm sure a hell of a lot of it's staring at your phone and looking at whatever you're looking at.
Yeah.
I remember going on the Port Orange trip with your beeper.
Yeah.
The old beeper days.
Yeah, you're almost as old as me, if not.
Hey.
No, but every day in the summer, I lived in Willow Run, so it was actually about 1.2 miles from my house to the rec. Now, rain or shine, I walked to the rec when I was in 8th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and played against, that's when all the high school kids would go. And they started at 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And I'm telling you, the gym was packed, both sides. The rubber court was where all the good kids played,
Wow.
and the other court were where all the other kids played. Now, I played in the 8th grade. I happened to be good friends with, at the time, the best kid around here was Justin Carlisle. You guys have no clue who I'm speaking of, but like, he was nasty. If he played today, he'd be embarrassing people. But 8th grade, he was in 10th grade. So he's the one that taught me how to play. And I had somebody I wanted to be better than. So I looked at him, even though we were friends, I wanted to be better than him. He was the best guy we had in Port Orange. So when I got to his age, I wanted to be the best guy. I don't think they have that today. Because number one, the gym isn't packed.
No, not only is the gym not packed,
It's
you're not allowed
babysitting
in
club.
the gym. So not only you're not allowed in the gym, I'm just going to take it a step further. I'm calling shots. You know how we're trying not to say names. I'm going to say names. I don't care. The Port Orange Rec, as soon as I found out there was a rule where you couldn't beat a team, I think it was over like 21. It was like a loss for your team. So how does that, how does that teach a young ball player that teaches them to take your foot off the gas because we can't beat them by too much. And it's just, I feel like little things like those that just add up. So you have the age restriction, and now you can't beat a team over 21 points. And then it counts as a loss for you. And I think, and then you look at the coaches, they're all about making their team win. So they're playing teams that probably they shouldn't even be playing.
Yeah.
And I feel like all of that adds up to the point you're making, is that I think all the focus is in the wrong area. I think it's on wins. I think it's on protecting instead of trying new things and focusing and developing.
It's always about the wins. to most people.
Fan question though. The DME, I'm so confused with the DME, and maybe Max, you know this more. They play New Smyrna?
They did.
Oh, I don't understand. I thought the DME is like their own. What schedule are they in? Are they within the Atlantic Creek's main?
That was a preseason game.
Yeah.
Preseason, so they
Yeah.
don't play any of the.
They,
Okay.
from what I understand, they play national schedule, I believe.
Yeah.
Somewhat. I mean, they do play Florida teams.
So are they trying? And I know we're not trying to throw any shade, but are they more of the? I don't know as much about them. I just been there through Atlantic, but are they more on developing the players for college, or is that what their main thing is?
From what they say, I mean, they have a double edge, like with DME. They have a beautiful facility. My problem with them would be and it's nothing against foreign people, okay? But if you're gonna build a facility like that, when they were building it, word was it was for the area, for the kids.
I remember that.
Okay, so I assume that's local kids. How about this one? If you're going to play a national schedule, now I know that building and everything probably cost anywhere from $1 to $4 million. That's a hell of a lot of money.
Sure.
Yeah, the computer room or the film room or whatever.
So you got to make money, but if you want your $4 million back, you're going to have to wait probably 10 to 15 years before that really pays you back or pays it off. So a way to get money is bring the foreign players in. Nothing wrong with that, but think about this. If you did it for our local kids, are you telling me, let's say, Colin Castleton, Nick Hurd, Braji Gordon, Wyatt Holdman, and then throw in a couple other players, couldn't go to DME and play a national schedule?
So you're talking about the local all-star
Local
team.
kids, yeah. I mean, is that such a bad thing to think of? But, we have, 2 kids from our area that play over there? DeAndre Harvey and then Max.
Yeah, and then they have like Lee's brother, Daquan. I don't know if he plays the younger or older group. I don't know the specifics of the DME, but no, I see your point.
But like, I'm really interested to see what they do with the local kids. Is it going to be just a, full-on international school? Well, and that would be fine.
Yeah, but you just got to know what are they trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's what they're doing. I think is great. The kids now they have the school. So really, I don't know exactly how DeAndre's day goes, but I'm sure it goes with some online schooling.
Yeah.
And then basketball.
Working
tons
out,
of
basketball.
and then a
Lunch.
little bit of online schooling, and then more basketball. So he's
Probably a
actually,
chef.
they're developing players
Yes.
easily at a faster rate than your local high school. But it's
My
not
first-
it's not because of their facility either, it's because people are there putting in the work, and so are the kids. I mean, we'll use my friend Ray Gaines, because I know he doesn't care what I say, but if he wants to open up the gym
Yeah.
for 5 hours after school and bring his players in and work them out for 5 hours after school every single day, he's able to do that. Same with Coach Howard. So and Joe Giddens and Chase Tremont, I'm not going to leave anybody out. So can Ryan Dickey over at New Smyrna. So they have the ability to train the players. Do you just put the work in? Or do you just practice for your 2 hours, you run over your plays, you shoot 10 free throws apiece, and then you go home and play the next game? Because really, honestly, I've been to some practices at different schools. There's not much shooting going on. Because you do have 15 kids or 13 kids. Oh, we're going to shoot for 20 minutes or pass the ball around. Really, the kid's getting maybe about 20 shots
Yeah.
in 2 hours.
Because of the whole team drills,
Yeah,
and there's so many.
2 points I wanted to. What do you think? Me and Kyle, we went to the Spruce Creek FPC game a couple of days ago. Yeah, it was not a great show. What do you think are the 2 most important aspects of the game for kids to win games right away? we had a discussion about it. Me and Kyle were sitting. We're actually right behind Chase. We're right behind Creek, and it was eye glaring. It was just out of this world that the 2 points we'll throw it out. Dribbling and shooting. I know that might sound dumb or just so beginner-like, basic. There were some times that Creek couldn't get the ball past half court, or if then in the fourth quarter, Creek was trying to make a run and they were kind of full court pressing them, FPC made one pass, one dribble, and they were getting layups. And then I swear there was FPC probably shot. I'm just going to.
I love it. You scout Dave.
No, I'm just. We're locked in. We're out there. We're seeing the show.
Okay.
FPC shot 20 open threes. Probably in the first half, they probably made 2 or 3 of them. They were awful shooting the ball. I hope this doesn't hurt people's opinion or whatever. They shooting in that game was just horrendous. And it's like, guys, they're setting picks and there's all these plays and I'm watching the action and it's just dribble and shooting.
I'll let you give your first response and then I have something after that.
No, you can go because see you're putting me in an awkward situation here, because my son does play for Spruce Creek. Also, a very good friend of mine, like as I call him, my black son from Bunnell plays for FPC. Yeah, so you put me in an awkward situation because one, my son wasn't playing in the FPC game, so I was really there. I was obviously rooting for Spruce Creek because that's where my son goes to win the game.
Yeah.
But I was also on the sideline still giving my player tips and hints on what he should be doing.
Sure.
We'll go the shooting.
You just made that point, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people focus on it because they're worried about let's make sure you run your plays.
I got something interesting. We're talking about Spruce Creek and Max. I know you're here, but I would say it. I've been saying this when they played Atlantic last year. Creek should have won that game, without a doubt, hands down. I'm an Atlantic guy, but the way Creek played basketball was fundamentals. They were actually passing. They were sharing the ball. And why did they have such a big lead early on was because they made the extra pass for the open three, and the 3 ball was landing.
Yeah.
You were hitting threes. Reese was hitting threes. So my point on that is I think shooting, that would have been my answer, is shooting. Because whenever you see a team shoot better than the other, they usually mathematically have the advantage.
Usually, you gotta shoot to score, right? You
Exactly.
gotta make baskets.
Yeah.
That
Now,
kind of helps.
you're talking about shooting, but then it's almost like it can also be your worst enemy as well as your best friend. Because we look at LaMelo Ball, we talked about LaMelo earlier. So the kids, I think, want to shoot, want to develop as a shooter, but then I think they see LaMelo's highlights, they see the NBA, and I don't know if they know the fine line of being a fundamental shooter like Klay Thompson and then pulling up for 3 on a fast break. And I've seen that, and I'm like...
Well, hold on. What type of fast break are you talking about? Because is it...
Wide open
Let's
layup.
say like a 2... Oh, okay.
Wide open layup. Pull up for a 3
no,
because
then
LaMelo
you-
does that. He pulls
then-
from half court, he
Then you make the layup. I have seen one player do that before, firsthand, catch a pass, turn around, nobody in front of him, and he shot the 3-pointer, and I scream out, "What the hell? Good shot!" And it was my son Max. We did that, and we were actually in the 7th grade playing the #1 team in Florida, Skill Center Elite, over in Orlando, and we won.
No.
Don't forget that. But I don't agree with that. Like, that was a bad shot, even though it went in. Like, on the ride home, I told him that's a bad shot. Now, fast break, 2-on-1, if you have a rebounder, and he's a rebounder, not a little guard, I don't have a problem with that shot. I think that's a smarter shot.
No, I agree. And
Even though I learned 2-on-1, take the layup, the game changed.
my point right there, the game is, I think Steph Curry has revolutionized the 3-point shot. Not just him alone, but he was a big part of it. And I think...
Or did he ruin the 3-point shot, like you said? Because now kids are pulling...
Finishing my sentence. That's exactly what I was going to say. Did he ruin the 3-point shot?
I would say no.
No, I mean, it's fun.
Because you're a shooter.
Right?
Oh yeah, once a shooter, always a shooter.
It's fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to...
No, mathematically, and this is why the Warriors are winning more games than other
3
teams.
points is more than 2.
3 points are worth more than 2. And then not even that, I think in the flow of a game, you hit 3 3-pointers in a row at any given time in the game. It's a game change, just 9 quick points. If you're up by 2 or 3 and you hit 9 ahead, that's a game over. If you're down by 4 or 5 and you hit 9
Well, if
straight.
you have a good coach, you don't ever get to hit 3 3-pointers in a row.
Ooh.
Because after the second one,
Was there any?
there's a timeout. Now, for coaches out there, I know you know this, but you don't get to bring those timeouts home and then bring them to the next game to have like 9. So just use them all.
I got notes here, and I have a star next to this note right here. What do you think about the coaching talent in the 3A6 scene?
The coaching, I'm not going to go into that.
That's what we've all been waiting for. This is the best
well,
question.
I think there's all the coaches that I know are very educated. They've been doing it for a long time. A lot of them were great players. You know, Coach Howard was a great player. He was actually my coach. It was his first year as an assistant was my senior year. So that was
circle.
Yeah, everybody knows everybody. So, you know, I definitely not coming on here to bash anybody, but they know basketball. But I also would have to say basketball does change. It's changed with the times. You know, it's gotten a lot weaker, if you ask me, meaning
No handshakes.
yeah, you can't touch nobody. There's these foul calls that it's crazy to think some of these players are complaining that they got fouled, and it's like just because the guy barely slapped your arm, you should make the layup. Like,
Sure.
Come on. But back to, I think some of the coaches, just because you are a good player, doesn't mean it results in you being a good coach. Because there's different ways of coaching, and I'm not saying I'm the best coach by any means. I was a good player. I think my way of communicating with the kids was trying to get them better. You put them in a tough spot. You know, for instance, let's say a high school game, if I was coaching a high school game, would the win mean more to me than a loss? So should I hold the ball for 6 minutes in the fourth quarter? And all them people that come to watch just because you're playing maybe a team in your district, you know, who cares? Man, nobody comes there to watch you guys pass the ball around for 6 minutes. Over a win? Like, let your team maybe screw up, and then you teach them what they did wrong, and can they come back from that? Like, that's my way of thinking. It's teaching. It shouldn't. Coach is just a term. You're teaching basketball. You're teaching situations.
Yeah.
So I was good at basketball, but I think I'm better at teaching tough situations than I ever was at basketball.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Where for the coaches, I think some of them, it might be the opposite.
Yeah.
They were way better at basketball than they are at teaching
To go to the
situations.
NBA, Magic Johnson, one of the greatest players ever, was a horrible coach because he didn't understand why other players can't do the things he did and see the floor. Magic Johnson could see the floor better than any player in the history of the game.
He's hard on them.
Steve Kerr, a mediocre player, just a shooter, is an unbelievable coach because he had to work his tail off.
Well, people would say, look at his team, but I would kind of say, yeah, look at his team.
Yeah. Well, were they?
They're sharing the ball.
Sure, yeah.
He's got star players that share the basketball.
No, also, I don't know if you guys remember, Draymond Green wasn't even in the starting lineup at one point. He saw that was a good move to make because it worked with that lineup. And I forgot Magic Johnson coached.
Oh,
yeah, he coached for a short time.
It didn't last long. Isaiah Thomas, an unbelievable player, horrible coach. Just looking around the league, professional football, basketball, the best coaches are that mediocre, gritty. They have to learn.
Larry Bird, he didn't do.
He was like a front office, right?
Yeah, he coached a little bit for the Pacers.
Yeah, he coached for the Pacers.
Yeah.
You know, but he's from the old school, so I think it was.
Before your time, Max.
I knew he was.
You're probably staring at your phone like most of the young kids.
A grass on a knee hopper, whatever that expression is.
No, back to the original point was the fact that.
But yeah, I wanted to go through like, and the coaching is different. Like, it's got to be more than just coaching X's and O's. It's got to be, you got to have a relationship with the player. You've got to know like what's going on in their home life. Not to be
Yeah,
prying,
yeah.
but you need to know about it. You know, and I'll give it to my friend Ray Gaines. I think he's a good teacher of basketball, how he sees, you know, basketball. You know, we all see basketball different.
That's the beauty of the game.
Yeah, you know who else, and I'm waiting for him to get his fair shake, and it's going to happen pretty soon. I wish it would have happened, you know, recently. I'm not saying one coach should be released for another, but my friend Ryan Dickey. Now, I've went, how many? Hundreds of games, probably, with Ryan Dickey back when Team 360, those AAU people, you know, that didn't play for 360 just got scared because they heard that's how bad they were. I mean, we went through and ran through everybody. You know, I coached the younger team, Dickey coached the older team. Now that guy, you know, he adapts, he's in your face, he's tough, but then he's teaching at the same. And I think given his shot, and it'll come within, you know, maybe my locked in prediction
Whoa.
is premature. I got another one. But if he coaches like within 3 years, he'd probably have the best program.
Yeah.
Just because the way he looks at the game, he came from a time where the time was just changing, you know, instead of old school to looking at like, oh, now I gotta change.
I played against Ryan a lot.
No, you mentioned AAU.
Yeah, and he was good.
Oh, real good. Oh my gosh. His
And he's
handles
intense.
was
Yeah.
out of this world.
And he's the
His handles. You ready? We always throw out analogies. Kyrie Irving. That's how he used to play, I think.
but was never in a rush, but got where he wanted to go. And that's another
I like
thing. You were talking about dribbling.
Mm-hmm.
That looked horrendous. A lot of kids think.
Creek didn't get the ball past half court. Is that what I mean? I didn't get to go to the game,
I mean,
so
there-
you guys
there
might
were,
play by play.
You know, and that's
There's a lot of
Look,
possessions
I'm
that
gonna- stand up for most of the Creek kids and the other kids. For some reason, they think when the defense brings pressure
Mhm.
that you have to go fast.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, like, so a lot of turnovers do happen. Now, I don't know if that starts in the gym, you know, the day before at practice where it's not being assessed. It's kind of hard to practice and game mode.
No,
You-
yeah,
you
completely.
know what I
It's a
mean?
different feeling. Yeah.
I mean, there's kids that do it. Last year, Hayden Vieri, he's slow. He's not beating anybody off the dribble, but
He
they-
finds a way to always break the press. That's the one
Yeah.
thing I like about Hayden is he's smart. Like he knows what he can and can't do.
you know, he got to where he wanted to go, and it didn't matter how long it took him. But he always, you know, like you said, did the right play. He didn't speed up because you were bringing pressure and thought, oh, we got to speed up. You know, he just made the pass. Make the pass, kids. Make the pass.
Wow.
That's one thing. Don't worry about the dribbling and the shooting. Just make the pass. If the guy is open and he misses the shot and he's open the next time, pass it to him again.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, don't go 1-on-2 just because he missed the one shot. That's what I see a lot in today's game.
One of the last major things I wanted you to hit on is the AAU system, because my experience with the AAU system wasn't the best, and it could partially be my fault because I started looking into it late. I should have started it with the program earlier. But another part of it, and we're not trying to call it any teams, but I just felt like it was, they already knew their team no matter if those were the best players on the team. And like,
Were you local on the local team here? Like, what?
no, okay.
Where did
Okay.
you go? Like,
I wanted to go for, like, this one. My first was, I believe, sophomore at Creek, and I had friends that were on AAU team. I think it was the Bruins,
yeah,
I
so
don't
it was
think I know.
a local
Yeah.
team.
and I was better than those people,
Stay,
without a doubt.
stay away from those kids. Stay away from your local team.
Okay, that's my point right there. Is I knew I was better than these people, and they're on the team. So I'm like, okay, let me try out. When's a tryout date? A couple coaches told me some dates. Call. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go.
Let me ask you something. Did it cost you any money to try out?
I didn't get to go to the tryout because they gave me the wrong date.
Oh, you must
gave-
not. You
they gave-
must have been really bad in
No.
the 10th grade.
I was better than these kids. These kids didn't even make our team. And
Max is
then,
pretty good.
No, I
Max
know.
is
I'm
decent.
just
and
giving him
then
shit.
Rob,
He's not good at playing horse. You know, we'll take.
we
him
won
out
today
there,
out there. But, Robin, they told Robert the same thing, same exact thing, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Found out, and there was coaches involved, and I just feel like
Yeah.
the whole AAU system has been
Well,
not
what I mean-
all of them, but a lot of them have been.
What I
kinda
mean by
corrupt.
like the local teams, and you know, I lived in Flagler, so I had a local team that we coached. They had the program before the one coach left, and I took over. I think my son was in the 5th grade, so the other kids were in the 6th grade. Right? That was so. You know, I did that for 3 years. Now I didn't bring for 2 years. It was the same 12 kids. I had tryouts, but nobody ever made it because, you know, they weren't good enough to make it. And some kids didn't even play in games. But they were at every game. They were at every practice. And we went and played the hardest. You know, and I was unbiased. It didn't matter. I've thrown my son out of games. You know, I didn't play daddy ball. I didn't play LeVar ball. Yeah,
Oh,
you know.
boy.
But local teams. But what I mean by like the local teams here is most of them are coached by somebody that's in with the high school. See, I wasn't in with the high school. You know, so it was easy for players to come. You know, then I got, you know, Gabe Ellis came and played. Chad Moore came and played some. Mike
Big
Donahue.
Chad at Creek.
Yes, he is.
Wow.
Yep.
I saw a picture. I was like, wow. I usually see him in an Atlantic uniform. I was like, good for Chad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind what school
I don't
anyone
know.
goes to, whatever's best for you. So I don't know
Yeah,
how
I
he's
think
doing.
that's what he felt, you know, maybe school-wise, and then, you know, so you're gonna play basketball, so you play basketball.
Good point.
But, like, to your, sorry, that's the Mountain Dew.
That was the question. Was what is in that igloo cup over there?
Oh, for everybody that probably thinks it's like alcohol-related and all of that, and I get drunk at the games, I do not. I haven't drank in 7 years. It's all Mountain Dew.
Yeah, no, this
but-
is straight Grey Goose though.
Yeah, that
That's
is.
fine.
I tried. But like the local teams, it's a good idea. You know, I see what they're doing, but like you said, you know, maybe they want the players that they want, regardless if you're better or not. And that's not fair. But why even play with them, really? Because they're not going to play nowhere. They're not playing nowhere.
Dropping knowledge. I completely agree with everything you're saying. And
Now, do you know, let me ask you something. Can a college coach come and watch you play in a high school game? Will a college coach come and watch Max during a high school season?
I believe so.
No,
No.
it won't, because
I don't think so.
their season is the same as the college season. So you think
Wait.
you
Oh, you're talking about
think
the
coach,
coach.
Yes, you think
Oh,
Coach
okay, I was
K is
thinking
going to
just
come
like school in
watch
general.
my son and leave his team and not prepare them for the
No,
next
yeah,
one.
I get what you're saying. I was
Right?
thinking scouts. Yeah.
So high school basketball, honestly, it's very hard to get scholarships through the high school basketball. Now, when I played, the timing was different.
AAU is way bigger now.
Yes. When I played, I believe when we played Mainland, I believe Dean Smith was at Spruce Creek to watch Vince Carter play. Yeah, I might be mistaken, but I do know 1 week Roy
I've heard of
Williams,
that. I've heard of that.
Dean Smith, and Mike Krzyzewski were there to see Vince Carter because the season was different. They had the time to come. Now coaches can only go watch players, high school players, July and August, and they go to the AAU tournaments.
That's it.
And it's called the live season, and there's no local team around here that dare step foot over there and go play.
Scared?
I don't know, it costs a lot of money. I mean, I hope it's not being scared.
I
But
have one last quick thing. You mentioned the News Journal. Is there anything in particular with the News Journal that is like on your mind that you
yeah,
have to
yeah.
get out? Because obviously you're in the studio here locked in.
So I pulled my phone out, and I can go on Twitter right now and look at, I don't want to get the names wrong, Chris Doyle?
Yes. Yes.
Which one?
I think it's Boyle.
Okay.
I could be wrong, right? Chris
Like-
Boyle?
Like, their articles that they write they're actually good articles. Like, they write good articles, but you had yesterday, and he's writing about a football player. Now, nothing wrong with that, but football season's over. You know, we're 7 or 8 games into basketball season. And what are you doing? He did actually write one today. He must have heard I was coming on here and had to hurry up and put something out there. But he wrote something, you know, about the FPC girls team. You know, so my problem is there's not enough publicity for the kids, because that's what it's about. You know, I've been friends with Joe Giddens since we were 13 years old. Now, I know he'll understand what I mean, and it's no disrespect, you know, but he got that job months ago.
Mainland.
Yes,
Yeah.
at Mainland. A couple days ago, there's a big write-up about him. Now, I don't care what he did in the 90s. I was there. I lived during that time. I played against him. I know what he did. You know, I don't care what he feels he wants to do with the program. I want to know about his team. Like, there's interesting stories on each team. Why don't these guys write about their stories? Like, the Robinson brothers, I believe is the last name. The one transferred, the younger one
From
transferred.
Atlantic to Mainland.
Yeah, to go play with his brother his senior year. Like, that's an interesting story.
Yeah, it's a
Now,
cool story.
Yeah, I don't care that they're back-to-back state champions, 95 and 96, and won in 98. I'd rather know about that. You know, like, you think of all these other teams, there's a lot of interesting stuff that needs to be written, and it's not. Like, what's the one guy's name?
Zach Dean.
Zach Dean. Man, if I follow him on Twitter, I could care less about the play-by-play between the Patriots and the Dolphins on his Twitter page. Like, I can go get ESPN Twitter. You're a local, small-town sports writer. Like, leave the big stuff to the big guys. You know, I mean, if I wanted to watch the game, I don't need to sit on my phone and look at what he's tweeting. No. And he can tweet whatever he wants to. I'm not saying that. But how about this one? How about Zach Dean go out to every school and get the assistant coach's phone number, right? And we'll use Spruce Creek. So it would say, you know, Kevin, Krager, Spruce Creek. Why I'm saying this is, at halftime, Kevin can easily go over to the scorebook and put, you know, if they're at home, send Spruce Creek 35, so-and-so 26. Max Oles 12 points, so-and-so 8. Send, and then get back into the locker room. No coach would have a problem with that, because the assistant coaches don't say shit in the locker room anyways. That's the head coach's job. Mm-hmm. So that 2 minutes that he's gone, it's not going to affect anything.
They used to do that. I think when my senior year, he left. It was DK. I don't know.
But you know why?
His abbreviation. But no, I think.
You know why I say this is, I know scores from Orlando games because of the people that I follow on Twitter, and I know halftime scores. Now, they're really good on football. The other guy is a football guy. It even says on it.
And he does all.
I mean, if Ty Baron got an interception, it's tweeted before he scored the touchdown. But for Christ's sakes, there's a game last night. I just found out on the ride over here who won. Atlantic versus Deltona. Like, nobody says anything. It wasn't even in the damn paper.
I think what the NBA does better than any professional league there is storylines. There are all about storylines. It's Kevin Durant's the villain. It's LeBron James. Where's he going in next year? And I think that is a great point. I think they should do that more in high school. The Davon Robinson.
Yeah.
Him going to play
That's
with
a
his
good
brother.
storyline.
No, I think that's a great storyline. Or Jordan, or whether it's Max, or I think they should have more storylines, because at the end of the day, it's all about getting exposure and putting your name out there.
You know, and I'm glad that you brought up two guys, because Jordan Sears is my main man. I coached him, you know, and we've been friends for a long time. You know, if the News Journal wants my help, they can keep the money. I can give them storylines. Like, they wrote a really good article last year. We were talking about it on the ride here, and I'm only going to bring this up because it is about my son. Okay, so the Atlantic Spruce Creek game last year was the best game of the year, right? We all know who made the turnover.
Packed house.
At the end, my son Max, but you know, he's in the 9th grade. He really shouldn't have been in overtime, and it was packed. But they wrote a really good article. But my problem with the article is that if you want to keep the storylines going, they left out the best part of the whole game. The best part was a 5-minute stretch where you had on Atlantic a star-studded team. Stacy, Lee Williams.
They should have went further. I told
Right?
them that.
And then you look on Spruce Creek side, you had Hayden, Jerry Antoine, R.J. Roden. Like you had star-studded, but for 5 minutes in that game, you had one 9th grader versus another 9th grader. Jordan Sears versus my son Max. That stole the show of the whole game. It didn't matter who won or lost. Jordan Sears scored 11 points in 5 minutes.
He was their spark. And then Max
scored 9 points in the same 5-minute stretch, going back and forth at each other. So here's a storyline. These guys are really good friends. You know, they talk all the time. They've played hundreds of games together, you know, in other states. They play for the same travel team organization. Like, they're going to battle throughout their whole high school career. That was one news journal that you blew. Like, they could have kept that going.
I think that's a good one.
You know what I mean? Like, and I know it's putting in work, but isn't that your job? Like, I'm a painter.
As a fan, it's not work.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. If
paint.
you enjoy the game, it's not hard for you to see something.
And if I go in, I'm not going to do no half-ass job and expect to get paid for it. Like, what are you doing?
So you're saying that we might have to have Max and Jordan on the
Yeah,
Locked In,
they would
podcast
love to
talking
do
about
that.
the future of their.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
and that's like for our town, they're 10th graders, you know, and I'm not knocking any of the other 10th graders because I know them. You know, there's Maximus Campbell, there's Kenny Witherspoon is his last name, right?
Atlantic.
Yeah, Kendall Bean.
Yeah.
I mean, these kids are getting good, and this is their first year on varsity. You're talking about two also 10th graders that have varsity experience, so they're ahead of the class, regardless of what anybody says.
Okay, so you're a witness, and Dave, I know you're fine if I say this. Any player, any coach, after seeing this, is more than welcome to contact us at Locked In with 2 N's on Instagram, Twitter. If you have my number, you can give him my number, and we'll have anybody in that wants to talk.
Yeah, and
Max, you're more than welcome.
if the
You're more
coaches
than
want to come
welcome.
in and then, you know, maybe they want to
Have a
debate with me.
roundtable discussion. How about
Yeah.
that? We'll have a
You know, I'm a
Monday
nobody
night
when it comes to it. I don't know much from, you
You
know,
know the game best.
I'm not a coach. You know, I don't want to be a high school coach right now. You know, my son plays, so I'm a fan. And I'm a fan of the other kids. You know, so,
You did say right now.
yeah, right now. I mean, there might be a time
In the future.
you know, when he's done.
Okay.
You know, maybe look at that avenue because I do like teaching basketball.
Oh.
You know, and I think basketball should be played a different way than it's been playing right now. You know, up tempo. Come on, it's exciting. You know, if you can score here's my way. If you can score 74 points, all you have to do is hold the team to 73.
So you
That would
are
be a
Mike
fun-
D'Antoni.
That's math.
Yeah, that would be
That's
a fun
not-
game to watch.
Yeah, of course.
That's $5 worth instead of going and
Oh,
watching
that
the team
that
score.
Spruce Creek FPC game. They owe me
I
$5.
got one even worse.
I paid $5.
I got one even worse. There was New Smyrna versus Atlantic, and in the third
And this-
quarter alone,
Who won that, by the way?
Atlantic won the game, 47-40. But in the third quarter alone, one team scored 2 points, and the other team scored 8. Yeah, mic drop. I mean, like, what are you doing? So then in the fourth quarter, you got a lead, and then you just stall. So it's about to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you said the 6-minute thing, that was against Spruce Creek last year. I knew exactly. And that was.
But it happens everywhere. I mean,
No,
every
yeah.
school. I don't mean to just point out
Oh,
that,
no,
but
no,
that's
yeah,
the most recent game.
No, I got exactly what you're saying, and I think.
FPC used to do it all the time.
And that would
I
help the
watched
players.
games, you
That would
know.
help the players too. A higher scoring game, up tempo.
Yeah.
But Do you have anything else?
No, I think
Is
that's
there
good. We're good.
anything else you
No,
want
I
to
mean,
address, talk about, say, shout out?
No, there's there's a lot more. I think we were bouncing around, so I really enjoyed it. I think we touched on some stuff. I think.
I had a question.
Oh,
for
yeah.
You.
For the camera.
Yes,
Producer,
I'm
that's
good.
the producer,
I'm good.
Shawnee.
You were talking about the transferring, or what sort. I was never in the basketball scene growing up, but what part of it is actually the program with the coach itself? Not you talk about playing time, but is it more? Would it be more beneficial to even get that coaching experience, going to the right coach, even if they're not necessarily getting as much play time? If maybe by the time they hit junior, senior year, they've got that, like Max said earlier, a couple years behind, on his belt with Atlantic, he could have had a better senior year possibly. Does that come into play with it? And then what about the kids adjusting from going school to school with doing schoolwork?
Well, I think most of the schools all have do the same work.
Mm-hmm.
I
mean, with friends, you also got to think about, again, in high school, you got,
But today's world, everybody's friend is right here.
Yeah.
Like when I was in school in the 90s, if I left Spruce Creek, like I left Spruce Creek 9th grade and went to Warner Christian for the same thing to get my grades up. Now, all my friends from Spruce Creek were just gone.
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah, I remember middle school, half of my class went to Creek, half of my class was at Miami, and I didn't talk to anybody until we graduated. We all kind of got together again, So it's like...
I think in today's world, it's easier to stay in contact. Maybe kids get pissed because you left a school that...
Right.
This, that, and the other. I think that's foolish.
No,
but
always worry about yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, is it an adjustment? Coming,
it is.
Getting,
I mean, it was a huge adjustment, culture shock. He went to Silver Sands, what was big. Spruce Creek is big, and then he went to a smaller school, and he just it didn't work for him.
Yeah.
I wish it would have.
Right.
But it didn't. And then your other point with the Max situation, I guess you have to look at what type of player you are, number one, and then maybe transfer to a system that
Benefits
more
him.
fits you.
I take it back to football. There was a player. I went to Atlantic. I graduated in 01, so it's a while ago.
Yeah.
There was a running back. The name is
Jabari Jackson?
no,
Paul
it
Miller?
was Jeremy Thomas.
Jeremy Thomas. Yes,
Jeremy
I went to
Thomas.
school with his brother John.
So he was amazing. Like I remember, his name was the top of all the records that we had on there. What I remember him, he went to a small Christian school in Tennessee so he could start his freshman year when he was recruited at Purdue. He could have been playing, his senior year would have been Drew Brees' senior year. But he wanted to go where he started early, and now he went to the smaller college, got hurt, and then nothing ever happened. But if he could have gone to another school, maybe developed a bigger school like Purdue, he could have been playing with Drew Brees, and who knows, he could have been in the NFL.
Yeah, well, in his point, because I do know him.
Yeah.
Also, I graduated first year, graduating class at Atlantic.
That was my freshman year.
Yeah, 96. So I do know Jeremy. I know his brother. I think a lot of that had to do with the kids before him, like a William Barty, who was a stud running back, was one of Florida's best running backs probably of all time, went to Oklahoma State, and first practice they said, "You're no running back, you're a defensive back."
Yeah.
Now, granted, he took that open-armed and had a hell of a NFL career,
Yeah,
maybe NFL.
Mm-hmm.
On the Chiefs, right? Kansas City?
And, so I think, maybe that had to
Always
a part, thinking of if I did go to Purdue,
Right.
Maybe they were going to switch me. The same happened with Marlon McCree,
Yep.
Who was a good friend of mine, went to Kentucky, undersized linebacker, and then ended up getting drafted.
Yeah,
and
cornerback, and went to Jacksonville.
Yeah, and then, wasn't fast enough, so boom, safety.
Right.
And was laying people out for 12, 13 years. Made a hell of a...
But I mean, that was a good thing for those players. There could have been a position maybe he had.
There could have.
Just like Tim Tebow could have changed his position, but he's stuck to being a quarterback, and now he's not there. But he could have maybe become a different player.
Yeah, I mean...
God bless Tim Tebow.
I mean, kids could do, like
Yeah.
you said, just go to the bigger place, and I guess it would be work for your spot instead of.
Get that exposure
No, I'm
and
not-
that coaching.
Yeah, I'm not saying every kid transfer just because you're
No.
not playing.
Right.
You know, how about this one? Maybe one, you're not good enough, so put in some more work. And two, here's a hint or a tip for every player that sits on the bench, you know, and plays a little bit. Okay, so if let's say you're a point guard and the starting point guard, right? Every day in practice, you should outplay him. Okay, so if you run 5-on-5 drills, you should be on him. You should try and shut his ass down every single practice. The coach has to see that after a while. Okay, if you're sprinting, I don't care about the rest of the team. Beat the guy in your position.
Sure.
He misses a shot, you make a shot.
Couldn't agree more.
You know what I mean? So there's ways to do it.
And
but-
also being that, if I can just cut in real quick, also, if the point guard during the game makes a mistake, he's dribbling right with his head down, dribbles the ball out of bounds. If you're the backup point guard, do not dribble with your head down, going right out of
Yeah.
bounds. Do the exact opposite. Crossover, go to the left, do something else different. I feel like the bench players, they piss and moan on the bench.
But they're not even in
They're
the
not
game.
focused on
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Because they're not ready. No, I agree. Here's another thing. I got 3 players that I spent a lot of time with. My son, Jordan Sears, and then DiMaggio Warren, and he's the point guard for FPC. If you've ever went to any of their games and you watch them come out of the game, now he did it in the 9th grade, so did Jordan Sears in the 9th grade. What would you do if you come out of the game? Most kids walk down the bench, slap everybody, high five, and then you sit down, correct? Now where are you? You're at the end of the bench, correct? So I taught him, I taught the other ones, you make everybody else stand up and slide down, and you sit in the first seat. Because what's a coach do when a kid makes a mistake? Immediately looks to the left. Do you think he's getting 10 kids down? Hell no.
That's the best point I've ever heard. No, that is genius.
But I watched it last year with my son, and I watched it with Jordan Sears. Make the kids stand up to slide down, so he was in the first seat. Now, who was usually the first ones off the bench? I mean, I went to a lot of Spruce Creek games. He's right there. Oh, that's what we need. Even if it wasn't,
Sure.
he's right there.
I can laugh about this. Coach Howard actually tore a kid's jersey because this was the issue. No lie. And he wasn't angry, but he was like, oh, get in the game. And he went like this and pulled him. Sorry. He's like, oh, no. And he had to go down and look down the whole bench to get the player he wanted.
Yeah, but
And normally he wouldn't go that far to do it. He just, hey, come on. So, no, I think
No.
that's genius.
But I do understand what you're saying, and it is hard. Like, I don't know what to do with the transfer. You know, like, I guess that's.
It just seems like for me. I mean, my son's in kindergarten, so I'm still not at that point of thinking of that type of thing. But it just feels like the bouncing around from one school. You know, for that, it's we talked a while back about LeVar Ball pulling his kid out of the school entirely. And,
Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
And it's like, how much of it are you losing in that aspect? Yeah, you're trying to get your playing time and trying to get that, but it maybe transfer is the right decision to get a right coach, even if you're not necessarily starting right away.
Yeah, I can understand
Yeah.
that point, but I'm more talking of a kid like this year going into the 11th grade.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you're in the 11th grade and you're not getting much playing time, you have to understand, chances are there's a 10th grader below you
Yeah.
that's,
The coach will always go for the younger
Yeah.
player.
and there's a senior already ahead of you. So you're like stuck in the middle. I mean, so what would you do there? I would honestly look around.
But would you go to, say, either lesser caliber coach or lesser caliber team to get playing time to maybe
Sure.
better yourself?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it comes down to you.
Yeah,
You know, how many schools the starting 5 have went to college?
True.
None. So when it comes down to it, like my point earlier with coaches, you need to showcase your better players. You know, I really felt like Stacy Beckton, he's at where? American.
Yep.
And that's a good school. But
He's
What's
been
he-
locked in.
But
He has.
he's,
Yeah,
but
he's
he's
done a lot,
6'5", right? And he can handle the ball. He can shoot.
Yeah, he's
Now,
a bubble player.
Now, if he was strictly used as the point guard, and you were on the team with the rotation, okay, so I didn't like the rotation for this reason. If he went out there and scored 8 straight points at that 3 minutes or the 4 minutes and 3 seconds, it didn't matter. You're out. And I felt that's wrong. Not saying he could have went any further, but he was the best player you guys had.
What,
He should have been showcased
I'll never
With-
tell him that, but yeah.
with his ability. He'd be a way better player as a point guard, I feel, and probably get further because how quick he was, and his shooting ability and his
And
bleeping ability.
he had
And at
everything.
6'5".
That's everything you wanted as a college scout. It's like, okay, can you shoot? He was one of the
Yeah.
few in the area that can like shoot the
And
lights out.
he's a hell of a basketball player, and I hope he's doing well. And that goes back to the News Journal. Come on. What's he doing? What's Amari Archibald doing? Like, dude,
Great point,
here's another story, real quick. There's a walk-on from FPC that gets an academic scholarship on his own, I must say, pretty much, with help from another coach from a different school, and myself, and people from his school, not his coach so much. But Preston Harvey played for FPC. No scholarships, finally walks on, gets an academic scholarship at Edward Waters. Walks on, makes the team. Calls me about 2 weeks ago. Coach, man, I'm nervous. What are you nervous for? I'm starting. So he walked on, and he's a freshman, and he's going to start in his first game at an NAIA school. So, like, my point is, if the coaches can't do everything for you, don't stop. Like, there's people out there that can help. Go to your guidance counselors. He was an easy sell. 4.2 grade point average.
Oh, wow.
3-year varsity
That's all, student
player.
athlete.
And had nowhere to go.
It's crazy.
How does this happen, Max? How does this happen? Answer this.
That's why you're in the studio, but you have been absolutely awesome.
I
wanna say
appreciate it.
Thank you, but I warned you. We final to cap this whole great show off. We get locked in. Would you like for us to go first, or
Yeah,
do
you
wanna
go
say-
first. I've been waiting for this the whole time.
Okay.
The other stuff bored
You
me.
go.
I thought we were gonna do an age thing. No, you
No,
want me to
you
go
go.
first?
Oh, yeah, you want me to go?
No, all right. My
Don't
locked
steal
in
mine.
is
We
easy.
talked about it earlier. Don't steal mine. Locked in.
My locked in's easy. It is the show, the Locked In Sports Podcast. We're just taking over the 386. We had Coach Howard on live a couple months ago. We had Pete White, boxing MMA gym. They are doing tremendous things here. They're out there in Port Orange. We're going to be going out to games, basketball, football, tennis,
MMA.
polo, hockey. I don't know. We'll go to everything. We're taking over 386. So that's mine.
Hey, that's a
That's
good
pretty
thing.
good, I think, right?
And kids out there that are at games before Max gets to his locked in, you should go on their Instagram or you got Twitter up
Oh
as
yeah,
well,
absolutely.
and maybe help out some with like scores.
Okay.
So people know what's going on because I can't be at every game. As much as I'd like to, I go to different games. I just can't do it, and I like to know what's going on and don't depend on the News Journal.
No, I love it. Okay, so David Van Auken, VANAUKEN, and
Yeah,
then
spelled correctly.
Max Van Auken, VANAUKEN. So send me whatever information. I'll help out. That's why I was kind of scared you were going to go first. We always kind of think alike.
Yeah.
Well, my locked in was similar, where I think you are obviously the first speaking out against this, or about it, not really against, but about it. I think you will transcend this local area and their views and their thinking about the whole high school system. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more people agree and come out of nowhere and really have the same opinions.
Well, I
And
hope so.
come out and open about it and hopefully come on locked in. Max, you're always welcome. Everybody's always welcome. And I think that's my locked in, is I think you're going to have a huge impact on this community.
Well, I guess
You
know,
already have, but just in this sense.
I'll stay. I've been on the community the whole show, so my locked in will go off the community, and everybody is always focused on these idiots. So my locked in is the Ball brothers won't last more than 2 months in the Lithuanian league.
Yeah.
And signed a 1-year deal.
Well, a 1-year deal. They won't
So they
last
have to.
2 months before the dad pulls them out. Okay? Real quick on that one. The Lithuanian league? Come on. You couldn't get them into the Spanish league? They're
So
awesome,
now
right?
going to the China League.
You're definitely not going over there. So that's out the question. The Spanish league is probably the second best league out there. You couldn't get your kids there? I guess they're not good enough.
They're not. And
Yeah,
I don't
and then
think
I got-
D'Angelo is ready for the NBA.
And then I got this guy that I follow, and I loved him as a player, Gilbert Arenas.
Oh, Gilbert.
So, No
Agent
Chill
Zero.
Gil says a team should actually draft LaMelo Ball because now will be able to enter the draft at like 16 or 17. Like, man, he must be on some sort of drugs or something because, one, he's not that good. I'll be honest
I've never
with you.
seen him play defense in my whole life.
Well, why would they show that? That's boring. And guess what else looks really bad? You know, showing the 38 shots that he missed
And
to get to
12
38 points.
turnovers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, anybody can shoot the ball. My son can score 50 points if I let him shoot 50 times.
My Max could too.
Yes, you're damn right. Right? So, like, kids, man, don't just focus on all that other stuff. Like, man, worry about crafting your game and doing what's best for you and let other people say and do what they want to do. Just worry about yourself, and
That's awesome.
that's about it.
Thank
2
you
months,
very
the
much,
Ball
sir.
Brothers.
Thank
Done.
you very much. If you're right, we'll have you on. If you're wrong, we'll have you on.
Yeah, and I think a great show. Jordan Sears would love to come on here. It'd be a great time
We
to
got-
have
we
him
gotta
and
do that.
Max, especially
Jordan
before
Max
the Atlantic.
special spectacular edition.
Oh, how about
Right
before the
game.
Atlantic game at the end of the year?
I
Oh,
like
man,
it.
That'd be.
Max, you have my number. Well, if you, I'll give it to you. We'll get you on locked in.
And more
whenever you
kids
want.
should come on.
That's right there.
It's fun.
So for everybody, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, you go to Locked In with 2 N's. Download, subscribe. This will be up in a couple days. And then this will be up on YouTube, Locked In with 2 N's. And then shout out to 386 Hoop Scenes for making this possible and supporting us. And
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
everybody, just make sure you stay locked in.
All right.
That's great.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you so much, sir. Oof, it does not get better than that. Oh my gosh.
Well, you guys got me talking.
No, that's what we want. We don't
No,
want
I-
anything
I
different.
caught myself. I spit out names.
Felicia
of
and Jamie
schools.
said they're gonna